Dear delegates, welcome back from lunch. I trust you had a chance to recharge and refuel, and I do hope that we were able to participate in the lunch event organized by the Secretariat to inspire us with the occasion of the 10th anniversary of the completion of the convention text, and it's signed at the Conference of the Plenipotentiaries in Kumamoto, Japan in 2013. So many of you were there, and we were instrumental in this momentous occasion. And you have all done so much work since then to ensure that the convention fulfills its objectives. Let us continue to be inspired as we move through our work this afternoon. I now resume the consideration of agenda item 4B to continue hearing interventions from remaining parties who requested the floor at the end of our morning session. I would like to remind you that in the interest of time and given our busy agenda today, we have already closed the list of speakers for parties. We do have on the list 9 parties. After that, I will give the floor to observers. As anticipated before our lunch break, I invite Bahrain to take the floor, followed by Tuvalu.
شكرا سيدة الرئيسة.
Thank you. I'm going to speak in Arabic, and I hope that the interpretation is working. So thank you very much, Madam President, for the opportunity to speak. First of all, I'd like to thank the Africa Group for the 3 proposals, 3 proposed amendments that were presented this morning. I'd like to remind you of the fact that the Kingdom of Bahrain, well before its ratification of the convention in 2021, in 2019, the Kingdom already banned all the import of dental products or dental amalgams containing mercury. Well, that was positive, of course, with regard to cosmetics. Not only Bahrain, but all of the countries, members of the Gulf Cooperation Council, we have all introduced regulation on cosmetics, banning the content of mercury in such products, and in medical products. Today, of course, we can't avoid the presence of traces, but we are working on this. We have been working on this for a number of years, and with regard to fluorescent lighting, we are now in the process of developing a similar recommendation. I think we are all going to work shoulder to shoulder this week, and with regards to phasing out polyurethane, COP4 in Bali. Launched this work, there were certain reservations on the part of certain state parties with regard to the methodology of phasing out that substance. Well, we have a dialogue and agreed on alternatives, as well as approaches to their introduction. And I think that the delegate of China this morning has reminded us about the need to support states to engage more in cooperation on these matters. And I think that this week the time has come to discuss polyurethane. So those are the cases. I thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Bahrain. I'm now giving the floor to Tuvalu, followed by Chile.
Thank you, Madam President. Respected delegates and esteemed colleagues, As this is the first time for Tuvalu to take the floor, we wish to extend our sincere gratitude and appreciation to the government and people of Switzerland for their gracious hosting of this conference. We also wish to express our gratitude to the Minamata Convention Secretariat for their dedication in organizing and facilitating this gathering. The vast Pacific Ocean that surrounds Tuvalu bears witness to our close relationship with the environment. The very vitality of our nation and its people is intertwined with the health of our natural surrounding. Today, we rise to address an issue that threatens both human health and our environment. The extensive use of dental amalgam, a significant source of mercury pollution. Global data reveals that between 226 and 322 tons of mercury is used for dental amalgam annually, making it one of the largest users of mercury in products. Such substantial usage culminates in mercury entering our environment, affecting our air through cremation, dental clinics, and sludge incineration, our water through clinic discharges, landfill runoffs, and human waste, and our lands via landfills, burial, and sewage. Developing nations, including many in the Pacific region, grapple with the challenge presented by the dental amalgam, often lacking the infrastructure to manage the resultant pollutant effectively. The promising horizon, however, lies in the non-mercury alternatives available today. Countries such as Japan, Norway, the Russian Federation, St. Kitts and Nevis, and Sweden have already transitioned away from dental amalgam. These alternatives, primarily composites and glass ionomers, have proven their worth not just in durability, but in their ability to preserve tooth structure, prevent future caries, and provide easier reparation. Additionally, an economic feasibility of these alternatives is evident, with the World Health Organization affirming their cost effectiveness. Furthermore, when we account for the environmental costs, the economic case against amalgam becomes undeniable. The environmental and health safety of non-mercury alternatives is well documented, with over 6 decades of rigorous research endorsing their use. Their accessibility and adaptability, such as their use in atraumatic restorative treatments, make them an attractive choice for regions with limited resources or where electricity is scarce. In our contemporary world, as we confront challenges like the COVID-19 pandemic, the fact that procedures like art with glass ionomers do not generate aerosols further accentuates the appeal of mercury-free alternative. With this context in mind, Tuvalu stands firmly with Botswana, Burkina Faso, and the entire African region in supporting the proposed amendment to phase out dental amalgam. This is a call not just for the health of our people, but for the love of our earth. We entreat our fellow delegates to recognize the gravity of this proposal and join us on this transformative journey towards mercury-free, sustainable future in dental care. I thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Tuvalu. Chile has the floor now, followed by Colombia.
During our first intervention on a national basis, Madam Chair, we would like to congratulate you for your work in leading us during this conference of the parties. On this agenda item, we would like to thank Botswana and Burkina Faso on behalf of the African region for the excellent presentation they've made concerning these amendments. Concerning the actual deadline for the silver oxide batteries and the deadline proposed, we agree with the month of October that has been suggested. I think this matches well the extended responsibility concept on the part of producers that we broached. Chile supports the production, import, and export of fluorescent lamps and would also agree on the deadlines for their banning. We also agree on dental amalgam in light of the fact that it is now rather infrequently used at national level other than in public health institutions. We therefore agree on the proposed date for banning such dental amalgam between now and the year 2030. We also support the elimination of fluorescent lighting in light of the fact that it is gradually being used less and less within our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chile. Now I'm giving the floor to Colombia, followed by Uganda.
Distinguished Chair, thank you for giving us the floor. Dear colleagues, since it's the first time that Colombia takes the floor at this plenary meeting, we would first like to congratulate our chair for the leadership provided during this meeting. And furthermore, we would like to express our deep gratitude to the government of Switzerland for its hospitality and for hosting this conference. We would likewise like to thank the Minamata Secretariat as well as the Executive Secretary for their work in preparing for this meeting. Eliminating dental amalgam in favor of alternative substances also does away with the high environmental costs that amalgam implies for the environment. It becomes increasingly clear that if we take environmental costs into account, dental amalgam is more expensive than composite resin. Already we have alternatives to amalgam, such as composite resins and also polymers, since polymers are the most frequently used. There are different studies that clearly point at the fact that fillings with resin, composite resins are more long-lasting than amalgam. In addition to that, they also have other technical benefits compared to dental amalgam. For example, greater longevity of the dental structure, also prevention of tooth decay, and also a longer-lasting tooth repair. In our opinion, dental amalgam should primarily be used for specific and early detection of tooth decay, but within a preventive, predictive, and results-oriented system. And that is how in Colombia we now cannot use mercury for any industrial productive process, including the production of dental amalgam, although at present the sale and use of dental amalgam continues to be authorized. That is why we will support the African proposal, and we would like to express our thanks for their proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colombia. I have now on my list Uganda, Botswana, Burundi, and the last one is Bangladesh. So in a sense of time spending on this, I appeal to you to have constructive and in 2 minutes interventions. So please, Uganda, you have the floor, followed by Botswana.
Thank you very much. This being the first time for Uganda to take the floor, I wish to thank the Secretariat for all the preparatory work that has led to convening of this conference. I also thank the government of Switzerland for hosting this meeting. The objective of the convention of Minamata was the center for the African proposal on cosmetics. Humans are in a daily contact with cosmetics more than other mercury-added products, and hence putting expectant mothers, women of childbearing age, children at risk of mercury pollution when their mothers use cosmetics that contain mercury. Africa does not manufacture skin lightening products containing mercury, and yet it carries a mercury pollution burden from exporting countries that are in most cases well placed to monitor, enforce, and dispose of waste containing mercury, in addition to being well placed in early detection of signs of mercury pollution. All the measures mentioned by parties in this room today have been tested in Africa, but found to be limited in terms of impact. So if we are to enhance the spirit within which this convention was conceived with the various INC meetings, in addition to mitigating possible impacts of mercury pollution, as experienced in Japan, we need to reduce Africa's vulnerability to mercury pollution from products, especially where alternatives do exist, such that we give a chance to the future generation to live in a safe and clean environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Uganda. I'm now giving the floor to Botswana, followed by Burundi.
Okay. Madam President, distinguished delegates, Botswana aligns herself to the opening statement made by the African region. This is with particular reference to the phasing out of dental amalgam by 2030. Botswana at national level has begun the journey of gradually phasing out dental amalgam. A national action plan was developed in 2022 to facilitate the process. As part of this action plan, a multi-sectoral committee comprising of experts from Ministry of Environment and Tourism, Ministry of Health, Institute of Health Sciences, government and private dentists is enforced to steer the phase out. Furthermore, Botswana has developed a roadmap to phase out the use of dental amalgam by 2030, based on the 5 following themes: education and awareness creation, research, supply chain, waste management, monitoring and evaluation. Currently, the private dentists are no longer using dental amalgam. For all government health facilities, phase down of dental amalgam is under implementation for the vulnerable group, such as pregnant women, breastfeeding women, and children under 15. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm moving on to Burundi, followed by Bangladesh. With this, I'm for sure closing the door for parties, and I will allow some of the observers to present their views. And I'm just telling you one more time, just to be careful with the time, because we started in 4 in the morning, and I was very confident that we can keep with the agenda, but we are now in a moment that we cannot actually finish what we planned for today. So I'm positive that you can understand me and follow the procedures. So Burundi, followed by Bangladesh, please.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, I'd like to congratulate you on your election and express my gratitude to the Swiss government for their warm welcome. We ratified the Minamata Convention on the 26th of March 2021, where we joined other countries working to eliminate the nefarious consequences of the use of mercury in cosmetics and the dental amalgam, the pollution of water by mercury as a result of mining activity, and affecting children and pregnant women. Burundi has developed a national strategy to phase out the trade in products containing mercury. In order to do that, we support the statement by the Africa Group and demand action on the management of mercury-containing waste and other products. I thank you, Madam President.
Very much, Burundi. And Bangladesh, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, and distinguished delegates. On behalf of Government of Bangladesh, I express my sincere thanks and appreciation to the Secretariat of Minamata Convention on Mercury, Government of Switzerland, and its citizens for hosting the meeting and warm hospitality. Madam President, Bangladesh ratified this convention this year on 18 April 2023. Therefore, this is our first conference of parties as a member country. We are grateful to the Secretariat to support Bangladesh in the process of ratification. Bangladesh prepared Minamata Initial Assessment Report in 2019, which helped our understanding and disseminated inventory of mercury use and emission in the environment in Bangladesh. Madam President, Bangladesh is committed to implement the convention. Bangladesh also believes that mercury management has a strong connection with the sustainable development and global environmental protection. However, impacts of mercury exposure on vulnerable population are disproportionate. I emphasize the importance of taking consideration the national circumstances and capabilities, financial and technical support, as well as the capacity building and technology transfer, particularly for the developing countries, for the sound management of mercury-added products in East West. I look forward to having fruitful discussion on the proposed amendments in this conference. I believe our collective actions today will shape the well-being of future generations and the health of our planet. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Bangladesh. I will now move on inviting observers to speak, and of course, in the interest of time, I will give the floor to the following observers. I will start with World Health Organization, followed by Natural Resources Defense Council. So World Health Organization, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. The WHO appreciates the opportunity to highlight key points provided in the information document UNEP MC COP5F30 Revise 1 Appendix, analysis by the World Health Organization of the preliminary results of the global survey to monitor progress in phasing down the use of dental amalgam. With the aim of informing the discussion during COP5, the Secretariat of the Minamata Convention and WHO jointly conducted a global survey among national focal points of the Minamata Convention at Ministry of Health and Ministry of Environment. Of the 195 countries that were invited to participate, 79 completed the survey. 94% of survey countries reported that dental amalgam was still used in their countries. However, most of the respondents reported that they were in process of phasing down its use. When assessing the implementation against all required provisions, 90% of the participating countries had complied with the requirement to implement 2 or more of these 9 measures. However, only half of them had implemented the 2 additional mandatory provisions adopted at COP4, meaning only half had met both criteria. The most implemented original measures reported by country was promoting the use of cost-effective and clinically effective mercury-free alternatives for dental restoration. This positive trend is driven by the inclusion of mercury-free alternatives in the latest 2023 WHO model lists of essential medicines and by the market competitiveness and the growing demand for these options. In summary, the result of this survey show that countries are actively working toward phasing down the use of dental amalgam, or whether further action is needed to implement the necessary provisions, particularly the 2 mandatory measures adopted at COP4 that have now come into effect. It may not be feasible for every party to completely phase out dental amalgam use by 2030, or whether there is value in establishing a roadmap with a time-bound agenda in countries which includes clear deadline to track progress of implementation. It would strengthen accountability and act as catalyst for driving concrete action at the national level, thereby accelerating the phase-down of dental amalgam use and, in some cases, when appropriate, even a phase-out. WHO is committed to supporting countries in implementing a more ambitious agenda on dental amalgam within the framework of the Minamata Convention. WHO calls on all key stakeholders to support countries in their effort to advance toward achieving sustainable oral health care and protect planetary health. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your statement. Now I'm moving on to Natural Resources Defense Council, followed by European Environment Bureau. Please, you have the floor.
We would like to add our voices to those who have thanked the Secretariat and the Government of Switzerland, and congratulations to you, Madam President. Mercury use in VCM is by far the largest industrial use of mercury globally. As reported by the expert group in preparation for COP 4.2, the vast majority of this production is in China, and for calendar years 2017 to 2018, China reported mercury use in the range of 700 to 820 metric tons per year. Annex B of the convention provides a unique mechanism for transitioning away from this mercury use. Rather than an annex amendment, Annex B provides that a COP decision on the technical feasibility of mercury-free processes is sufficient to trigger a 5-year phase-out obligation. The COP will require credible and current information to make this decision. Toward this end, NRDC invites you to attend a knowledge lab we are sponsoring on Tuesday at 2 p.m. At this Knowledge Lab, one of 3 mercury-free catalyst producers will be presenting information on the ongoing transition to mercury-free catalysts in China and in India. This is a good news story. A lot is happening. NRDC is sponsoring this Knowledge Lab to promote further informational development in advance of COP6. We are now 6+ years into convention implementation, and it's time to undertake a fresh review of this mercury use. We hope this Knowledge Lab will promote this undertaking, and we look forward to the upcoming CRP. Thank you.
Thank you very much, NRDC, for your statement. I'm now moving on to European Environment Bureau, followed by World Alliance for Mercury-Free Dentistry. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm speaking here on behalf of the Zero Mercury Working Group, and since this is the first time we are taking the floor, we wish to express our sincere appreciation to the government of Switzerland as well as UN Environment, the Bureau and the Secretariat for all your effort to make this meeting happen, and also congratulations to you, Madam President. We urge the Conference of the Parties to take decision and ambitious action at this meeting to close the gaps in convention coverage of mercury products and processes so that these uses are phased out and thereby removed from global commerce. The mercury products to be discussed at this meeting have viable and safe non-mercury alternatives as demonstrated by the transition already undertaken or completed by policymakers and or producers. We welcome and support the proposals submitted by the Africa region and dental amalgam, lamps, and on cosmetics. Recognizing how the NGO speaker will be addressing dental amalgam and lamps, we join with them in urging that an Annex A should be revised so that a timeline for phasing out the manufacturing and trade is established for this product. Annex B should also be revised so that the production of polyurethane using mercury-containing catalyst is prohibited. We would like to highlight, however, the urge to address the issue of mercury-added cosmetics. Despite the current ban under the Minamata Convention, the trade and manufacture of mercury-added cosmetics continue relentlessly. The Zero Mercury Working Group, in its persistent effort to monitor the markets, has once more demonstrated the need for stronger measures. In its last investigation, 90% of the cosmetics that we have analyzed and that were purchased from many different platforms were found to contain mercury levels that exceeded the 1 ppm threshold. The COP can stop this by adopting stricter and complementary measures that would address this global mercury crisis. In addition, the recent environmental investigation agency's undercover investigation showed clearly that mercury compounds are being deliberately added to cosmetics. The COP should therefore consider addressing the legal loopholes that enables mercury compound trade as it compromises the objective of the convention. At a minimum, mercury compounds should not be produced or traded for uses not allowed under the convention. Mercury is still far too present in our environment and continues to impact people's health every day. So let's act upon it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your statement. We move on now, giving the floor to World Alliance for Mercury-Free Dentistry, and this will be followed by International Pollutants Elimination Network. You have the floor.
Congratulations, Madam President, from the World Alliance. Your election is a very good sign from your great country, Romania, and the important CEE region. The African Amalgam Amendment needs to be passed this week for 3 reasons. 1, dental amalgam is a social injustice, an environmental injustice. The middle class has escaped amalgam. 99% of the people in this room have escaped amalgam. Amalgam is now used on the immigrants, on the minorities, religious, ethnic, racial, on the poor people, on the institutionalized in prisons and in mental health clinics. There is no no consumer demand for amalgam. No consumer wants mercury in their mouth. They are getting it because it is forced on them. Mercury fillings is forced on them by uncaring government bureaucracies and multinational insurance companies. Second reason, 17 years of phasing down is enough. We've had 10 years of phase down since this treaty began. The African Amendment liberally tacks on 7 more years. So you have 17 years from 2013 to 2030. Certainly, and we'd have to ask the opponents of this amendment, if there are some, do you want amalgam to continue forever in Africa, forever in Asia, forever in Latin America? And we certainly hope no, but 17 years is enough. Third reason, amalgam is an unnecessary public health disaster, an unnecessary mercury poisoning of the fish, of the children, and an unnecessary workplace hazard ruining the lives of the young women who work in dental clinics. I got news. The dental lobby is not leveling with you, ladies and gentlemen. Every single dentist in your country, every single dentist in the world can do alternatives. Amalgam is a superior product. It is tooth-friendly. It is non-polluting. It lasts as long. It's comparably priced. It is modern. The other choice, amalgam, is a 19th century primitive colonial-era tooth-unfriendly pollutant being imposed on us. Now, countries are moving. We have the track record. In our written submission, we have the list of 70, not 717, 70 countries, that's half the parties, have taken a major step to phase out, full phase out, partial phase out, a date for phase out of imports. Indeed, a good prototype is the end of government amalgam in government programs, which Indonesia and Poland pioneered. So you can do it. Parties, you can do it. Choose 2030, the year to comply with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And now we move on to International Pollutants Elimination Network. You have the floor.
What do you want?
Gracias, señora presidenta.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to support the statement we have just heard for a mercury-free world. And this is, of course, part of the overall effort to eliminate dental amalgam. We also support the Annex A measures that would ban any quantity or amount of mercury and any measures at a national level, thus reinforcing the ban of mercury. And this will also reduce trade in mercury-added product and also reduce the trade in highly toxic products in general. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your intervention. Now, let me recognize there are still requests for the floor. But in the interest of time, I would like to close the list and move on. Your contributions can also be submitted in writing to be posted on the website. So again, thank you for all your statements, based on which it is quite clear that further and more in-depth discussion is needed to proceed with this agenda item. Therefore, I propose to you to establish a contact group on Annexes A and B and to request it to begin its work when the plenary adjourns. I propose the following mandate for the contact group. With respect to the amendments to Annex A, the mandate is to consider the phase-out date of the four mercury-added products listed in square brackets in paragraph 5 of decision MC4/3. Also, the mandate is to consider the proposed amendments to Annex A as contained in documents UNEP/MC/COP5/5/add1, add2, and add3. With respect to the amendments to Annex B, The mandate is to consider adding the production of polyurethane production using mercury-containing catalysts to Part 1 of Annex B, pursuant to paragraph 6 of decision MC4/3. With respect to the technical and economic feasibility of mercury-free alternatives to two manufacturing processes listed in Annex B, Part 2, the mandate is to take into account the report of the Secretariat presented in Section 4 of the document UNEP/MC/COP5/4. Consider whether the COP could establish that mercury-free alternatives for the production of vinyl chloride monomer and sodium or potassium methylate or ethylate have become technically and economically feasible. And based on these considerations, to provide for the consideration of the plenary a draft decision of the COP on the above matters. We will ask the contact group co-chairs to report on the progress of work by the contact group at plenary tomorrow morning. The Conference of the Parties is now entering decision-making mode. Are there any objections to my proposal to establish this contact group on Annexes A and B as I have just described? Okay, I see no objection. It is so decided. Following close consultation with the Bureau members, I would like to request Itsuki Kuroda of Japan and Moleboheng Juliette Petlane of Lesotho to take on the task of facilitating the work of the contact group as co-chairs. Are there any objections from the plenary to this proposal? I see no objection. It is so decided. Itsuki Kuroda and Moleboheng Juliette Petlane, thank you for taking on this important task. I would like to complement what I've said with the fact that Isaku Toda, Senior Program Management Officer with the Secretariat, will support the work of the contact group. The group is invited to start the work now until 6 p.m. and then break and resume its work at 9 p.m. until 10 p.m. 7 p.m. until 10 p.m. We have made quite a rapid progress today. My sincere gratitude to all delegates present here. With this, I would like the Secretariat to inform on the room arrangements for the contact group on Annexes A and B.
Thank you. The room for contact group on Annexes A and B, room A, is prepared for your use from now until 1600 and again from 1900 to 2200 hours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretariat. Before we move to the next agenda item, I would like to bring to your attention that a CRP has been proposed by GRULAC region and co-sponsored by Australia and Canada on the effects of mercury pollution on indigenous people and on local communities. The CRP is available on the online document page as CRP1. Okay, let us now move on to the agenda item 4G, financial resources and mechanism. There are 3 sub-items under this agenda item. I would like to ask the Secretariat to present the documents for each of the 3 sub-items. Then I will take intervention. I would like to turn to item 4G first.
Yes, we're just getting the Secretariat. Yeah, they're coming.
As I said, we would like to turn to item 4GI first, and I invite the GEF Secretariat on the podium next to us. Thank you very much for joining us. I invite the Secretariat to introduce the relevant documents, and before handing the floor to the Secretariat, I would like to welcome the GEF Secretariat to COP5. The GEF is very important to our parties and stakeholders, and we look forward to hearing from you both on the work of the GEF to support Minamata parties since COP4, but also on the outcomes of the GEF 8 replenishment. Let me first turn to the Secretariat to shortly introduce the documents before COP5 on GEF.
Thank you, Madam President. The Secretariat prepares a regular report for each conference of the parties on each of the two components of the financial mechanism of the convention. Document 10 contains the Secretariat's update on matters related to the Global Environment Facility Trust Fund in its role as part of the convention's financial mechanism pursuant to Article 13. In addition to the Secretariat's report, as per the Memorandum of Understanding between the Global Environment Facility and the Minamata Convention, the GEF Council reports regularly to the Conference of the Parties. As such, in Document 10, Addenda 1, you will find the executive summary of the report of the Council of the Global Environment Facility to the Conference of the Parties to the Minamata Convention for the period of July 1, 2021 to June 30, 2022. The full report is contained in INF 14, which has been translated into French and Spanish through the generous work of the GEF Secretariat. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The GEF has been a close partner of the Minamata Convention from the start. I would like now to hand the floor to Ms. Kitsuru Aoki of the GEF Secretariat to present the report of the GEF Council to the COP and also to update on the GEF 8 replenishment. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm pleased to present the report of the Global Environment Facility to the 5th Conference of the Parties to the Minamata Convention on Mercury. The report in front of you to the COP describes GF support to countries to help implement the convention from July 1, 2021 to June 30th, 2022, which is the final year of the GF7 period. And the report also describes how the GEF continues to respond to guidance received from COP1. In the reporting period, the GEF allocated $29.8 million for 4 projects consisting of 2 full-size projects and 2 medium-sized projects, and 8 enabling activity projects. It is estimated that 113 metric tons of mercury will be addressed through these projects. The cohort of projects supported during the reporting period supports 13 countries, including 3 least developed countries and 1 small island developing states. The support of 8 enabling activities brings the number of countries with assistance for Minamata Initial Assessments, or MIA, to 119 countries. National action plans for ASGM were supported in 8 countries, bringing the total to 48 countries. Now let me summarize our support to the convention in the GEF7 period from July 1, 2018 to June 30th, 2022. Of the $206 million allocated to the Minamata Convention in the GF7 period, $202.9 million, or 98%, has been programmed. Overall, the GEF Chemicals and Waste portfolio leveraged $7 in co-financing for every GF dollar invested. The total number of countries that received support in the GEF-7 period stands at 87 countries, with 27 LDCs, 35 SIDS, and 5 LDC SIDS. The GEF-7 results framework included a target of 100,000 metric tons of chemicals and waste, including mercury. The cumulative GEF-7 amount of mercury addressed was 1,629 metric tons. In accordance with GEF COP guidance, the GEF portfolio supports synergies across the chemicals conventions, generating multiple benefits. Altogether, projects approved during the GEF-7 period generate the benefits of reducing 9,132 metric tons of POPs, disposing of nearly 3 million metric tons of POPs and mercury-containing and contaminated materials, while reducing more than 600,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent and avoiding 260,000 metric tons of marine litter. The report also provides an outcome of the 8th replenishment of the GEF Trust Fund. 29 donor countries pledged more than $5.33 billion towards the GEF-8 programming, which is a record figure. Of this amount, $800 million has been allocated to the chemicals and waste focal area, representing 15% of the total GEF resource envelope. This makes chemicals and waste focal area the 3rd largest focal area of the GEF. $269 million has been allocated to the support of the Minamata Convention. This is a 30.6% increase from the GEF-7 allocation to this convention. Before closing, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to Ms. Monica Sankiewicz, as well as Secretariat colleagues, for the excellent cooperation extended. Madam President, the GEF has reaffirmed our commitment to support the successful implementation of this convention with a significant increase in financing. We look forward to a successful meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It is clearly that GEF and its 8th replenishment is of great importance to the parties of the Minamata Convention. Now we turn our attention to the second sub-item under agenda item 4G, namely the specific international program. I would like to highlight that the specific international program is the other component of the Convention's financial mechanism. The Minamata Convention's financial mechanism is structured to include both the GEF for projects undertaking throughout implementing agency, as well as the smaller SIP, a direct grant-making mechanism to assist eligible parties in strengthening their capacity at the national level. In its first 5 years in operation, and with thanks to the generous voluntary contribution of 10 donor parties to the convention, the governing board of SIP was able to launch 3 rounds of applications. I am pleased that we have available to us the midterm evaluation of the SIP, looking at the first 5 years of its initial 10 years lifespan, and I'm very pleased to note that the evaluation provided positive findings regarding this important part of our financial mechanism. I invite now the Secretariat to introduce the documents prepared for our consideration on the specific international program.
Thank you, Madam President. The Secretariat prepares a regular report for each conference of the parties on each of the 2 components of the financial mechanism of the Convention. Document 11 contains the Secretariat report on the specific international program for the period from COP4 through June 2023. The report lays out the support provided by the Secretariat to the SIP, the work of the Governing Board since COP4, an overview of the status of implementation of the 24 projects approved in the first, second, and third rounds of applications to the program, the status of the specific trust fund, as at 30 of April 2023, and the midterm evaluation of the SIP, including conclusions and recommendations provided in the report. In addition to the Secretariat's report, the Governing Board of the SIP also presents its reports to the Conference of the Parties. As such, Information Document 15 contains the report of the 7th meeting and reference to the 8th meeting of the Governing Board of the SIP. Furthermore, in Document 11, Addendum 1, you will find reflections of the Governing Board on the midterm evaluation of the SIP and reflections of the co-chairs on the 4th round of applications to the program. Information Document 16 contains the full report on the midterm evaluation of the SIP, presented as received by the external consultant who conducted the evaluation. The evaluation assessed the program in relation to a number of criteria and provided conclusions and related recommendations for the continuous improvement of the SIP. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Secretariat. Now we turn to the third sub-item, namely the review of the financial mechanism. And again, I invite the Secretariat to present the documents on the second review of the financial mechanism.
Thank you, Madam President. Article 13, paragraph 11 calls upon the COP to review the financial mechanism on a regular basis and calls for the review to cover the level of funding, guidance, effectiveness, and ability of the financial mechanism to address the changing needs of developing country parties and parties with economies in transition. The first review of the financial mechanism was completed at COP3, and COP3 requested the Secretariat to draft terms of reference for the second review for consideration at COP4. The terms of reference were adopted at COP4, and the work to prepare the second review of the financial mechanism proceeded accordingly. Because the review encompasses the entire financial mechanism, it covers both the GEF and the SIP. Document 12 sets out the information prepared for the second review of the financial mechanism, covering the period of August 2019 to July 2022, including the executive summary of the report prepared for the second review in accordance with the terms of reference. The meeting document also summarizes the process undertaken to prepare the COP for the second review, its findings, and recommendations and considerations relative to the next and subsequent reviews. Annex 1 of Document 12 sets out a draft decision for consideration of the Conference of the Parties. The executive summary of the report prepared for the second review is set out in Annex 2 of the document. The full report was prepared. Yes, I lost my place. The full report was prepared by an external consultant based upon submissions, information provided by the GEF and the SIP, an extensive survey, and interviews. It is set out in Information Document 17. The submission and information received are included in the annexes to the information document. Furthermore, the Conference of the Parties has before it Information Document 18, the report by the Special Program to support institutional strengthening at the national level for implementation of the Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm Conventions, the Minamata Convention, and the Strategic Approach to International Chemicals Management. The Secretariat works very closely with the Special Program to ensure that eligible parties make the best use of both these sources of financing, that the efforts are complementary, and that there is no duplication of effort among the SIP, the GEF, and the Special Program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretariat. I will now like to call on one of the co-chairs of the Governing Board of the Specific International Program, Andrew Clark, from the United States of America, to reflect as co-chair on the work of the Governing Board since COP4 and on the fourth round of application. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I have had the pleasure of co-chairing the Governing Board of the Specific International Program since COP4, and even in this short time, I have had the opportunity to see the importance of the SIP in providing capacity building and technical assistance to support the implementation of the Convention's obligations. I believe that the SIP is critical to the success of the convention and to achieving its objective to protect human health and the environment from mercury emissions and releases. The report prepared for the second review of the financial mechanism similarly found that the SIP has been effective in providing support to parties in implementing their obligations under the convention. This conclusion has also been borne out by the findings of the SIP's midterm evaluation. The evaluation came at an important time in the program, as the end of 2022 marked the 5 years of operation of the SIP and the halfway point of its initial term. In fact, the SIP was established for an initial period of 10 years with a possibility of extension for another 7 years. During these first 5 years, 24 projects were approved for support through 3 rounds of applications. The midterm evaluation has been an important tool to assess the SIP and provide evidence of its performance and results. At its 8th meeting in August 2023, the Governing Board discussed the findings, conclusions, and recommendations provided in the midterm evaluation report, and was particularly pleased to note the evaluation found that the SIP is serving the needs identified by the parties of the convention. The SIP is clearly contributing to strengthening the capacity of parties to meet their obligations under the convention. The operations of the SIP to date have been conducted efficiently, and resource mobilization is needed, particularly considering the critical financial situation of the SIP. Also, at its 8th meeting, the board considered the status of the specific trust fund, and in particular, the funding received for the 4th round of applications to the SIP. The board thanked Austria, Denmark, France, Germany, the Kingdom of the Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and the United States of America for their generous contributions to the specific trust fund, which have enabled 3 rounds of applications to be concluded since 2018. The board also expressed its gratitude to the government of Italy for funding a junior professional officer post in the Secretariat, fully dedicated to the program for 3 years, ending 1 year from now. However, the board noted with disappointment that the level of funding contributed was lower than that received at the same stage for previous rounds and was not yet sufficient to launch the 4th round of applications. Timely and substantial mobilization of resources is needed for the specific international program to remain fully operational and continue to respond to the specific and urgent work of the convention in its first decade. This is another important conclusion of the report prepared for the second review of the financial mechanism. I look forward to the launch of the next round of applications and to see more parties benefit from the program's support. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much for sharing your experience and perspectives. And through you, I would like to extend the gratitude of the Conference of the Parties for the work done by you and the other co-chair, and also by all the board members on this important body of the convention. Now, I would like to invite interventions from the floor with respect to financial resources and mechanisms, including the review of the financial mechanism. As I said in my opening this morning, I will give priority in the speakers list to parties first. So the list is growing, and I'm going to open the intervention with Iraq, followed by Antigua and Barbuda.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Chair.
Madam President, Iraq looks forward to true action in order to fulfill our objectives and commitments towards the Convention, particularly after completing our first report on mercury, which we have submitted to the GIF under the supervision of UNEP, and we should like to thank them for their assistance. At the same time, we would like to ask the Convention for more assistance in order to fulfill other activities that are needed, particularly that we were not able to secure the financing necessary to implement it. these activities are extremely sensitive to the well-being of the society. For example, we have polluted areas of mercury, and this is one of the main problems faced by Iraq. Iraq had decided to relinquish using it in cells and for alkaline and as well as other activities that led to polluting certain sites. Thus, we need assistance to face up to this pollution. We need a mechanism for the collection of information, for tracing, and for processing. Thus, we need further assistance. May I use this opportunity to recall Decision 25/5, particularly item or paragraph 25, which actually led to the adoption of the Minamata Convention. It stipulated that one of the core purposes of the convention is to control the emission of mercury in the atmosphere and to process and manage mercury waste, particularly also managing and clearing polluted sites. We should like to request and thank in advance the donor countries and request further assistance in capacity building for Iraq and considering this item as a priority within our work in the financial mechanisms. I believe this mechanism is one of the successful mechanisms that would allow us to reach the objective of controlling and eliminating mercury. It does require hefty financial assistance. Therefore, I hope and send out a plea that in this conference we will be able to reach concepts not just on the financial side, but also on the scientific and practical side in order to really record a step forward in our history. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Iraq, for your intervention. Now I'm giving the floor to Antigua and Barbuda, followed by Botswana.
Thank you, Madam President. My intervention concerns agenda item 4G2 on the specific international program. Madam President, the government of Antigua and Barbuda, as one of the countries executing a SIP project during the second round, wishes to express gratitude to the contributors to the trust fund that provided critical funding for the execution of our project, facilitating capacity building with technical assistance and technology transfer for the managing of mercury in the Caribbean. Also, we thank the Secretariat for their support and guidance during the execution of the SIP project. This timely project seeks to address gaps in data, in biota, and the environmental samples within our region, and through this objective is pleased to announce the establishment of the Caribbean Region Mercury Monitoring Network. I wish to recognize the membership of the network that includes, in addition to Antigua and Barbuda, Belize, Guyana, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, Suriname, and Trinidad and Tobago. I further wish to recognize the expert collaboration provided by the Biodiversity Research Institute and Environment and Climate Change Canada, who imparted their significant expertise and are key partners in the network. The government of Antigua and Barbuda will continue to coordinate the network upon the conclusion of the SIP project to ensure the sustainability of the network and the data collection. The network looks forward to providing needed information and data to the global assessment on mercury and towards the evaluation of the effectiveness of the convention. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Antigua and Barbuda. I was asked by the translators to speak slowly. Seems like my speed is big enough, so I'm extending this request also to you. I think these topics are very important, so it's essential that your message should be clearly translated in the 6 UN languages. So for the next speakers, a kind reminder to speak a little bit slowly. Thank you very much. Now we move on to Botswana, followed by Argentina. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Distinguished delegates, Botswana, on behalf of the Africa region, welcomes the information provided by the Secretariat for the first component of the financial mechanism. On the GEF, the new replenishment should ensure equitable allocation of funds for the effective implementation of the Minamata Convention, considering that the Africa region is most impacted by mercury. For the SIP, there is a need to review the mandate and expand its scope to accommodate the ever-increasing challenges posed by mercury, as well as the implementation of the various obligations under the Minamata Convention. Madam President, the Africa region wishes to encourage private sector participation, involvement, and engagement in line with the 2015 UNEP's integrated approach to finance. On the issue of capacity, we wish to see a more realistic approach that recognizes current day challenges and is adaptive to the specific needs of developing countries and countries with economies on transition. I thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Botswana. I'm now going to give the floor to Argentina, followed by Colombia.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Well, first of all, I'd like to stress the importance of a financial mechanism, which is crucial, as well as of SIP, which have made it possible for us to strengthen our capacity in order to tackle this issue of mercury along a wide front. Thank you also to the Secretariat. Thanks to other actions proposed by other countries, and for making available new resources for our countries, making national development possible, and placing at our disposal tools that would allow us to phase out the production and the input and the export of mercury-containing products. We also have a mercury monitoring mechanism for its waste in nature. We have expressed our disappointment with the weak level of financing for this facility. We need integrated finances, and for that reason, we deplore the weak level of resources which are being made available today. We need to ensure access of countries, such countries as mine, to facilitate its financing in order to be able to implement the programs that we want to develop, and to strengthen our capacity using favorable technologies that are up to date. I thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Argentina. I'm now giving the floor to Colombia, followed by South Africa.
Gracias, señora Presidenta.
Thank you, Madam President. Colombia would like to stress the importance of the need for COP5 to recognize the importance of resources for countries such as ours with regard to implementing the Minamata Convention. For that reason, I'd like to issue a formal urge to step up financing. We are happy to be able to announce that we have a new database which has been completely rejected to take into account all of the effects from the implementation of the convention, and which represents real, genuine progress compared to previous databases. With regard to SIP, unfortunately, we have to point out that the SIP is going through a very difficult phase. And difficulties to do with the weak level of financing. We'd also want to see for SIP an adequate financing mechanism that would make it possible to fully implement our program of combating mercury pollution. Well, I thank the developed countries in advance who have already contributed and continue to be generous with their contributions, but I think it's important to have voluntary contributions on the part of other parties to be able to strengthen our capacity and benefit from technical assistance, which is indispensable for countries such as mine, as well as for our population and our environment. I thank you.
Colombia. I'm now moving on, giving the floor to South Africa, followed by Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Madam President. We would first like to align ourselves with a statement made by Botswana on behalf of the Africa Group. Madam President, adequate, sustainable, and accessible funding is critical for the effective implementation of the obligations towards achieving the objectives of the convention. The GEF has been very helpful in supporting the parties to the convention, as reported by the GEF Secretariat. However, more funds need to be allocated towards technical assistance and transitioning to safer alternatives through subsidizing safe alternatives where their cost is very high, so as to prevent shocking the relevant industries. On the SIP, we note the co-chair of the governing board's report that there has been lower contributions and there has not been a fourth round of applications. We also do appreciate and thank all the donors that have contributed to the SIP so far. This indicates, Madam President, that the SIP has not been adequately funded ever since its establishment. As such, there is a critical and urgent need to contribute more resources towards this fund to facilitate the access to funding by parties towards effective implementation of the convention. I thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, South Africa. I'm moving now to Nigeria, followed by Mali.
Thank you, Madam President. Nigeria is also in alignment with the position of the African Group, but on SIP, Nigeria supports the strengthening of the specific international program and call for the timely and substantial voluntary donations by donor countries to enable the program to remain fully operational. Since the inception of the program, the SIP has, to a large extent, supported projects that help improve the capacity of developing countries and parties with economies in transition in implementing the obligation under the Minamata Convention. However, as it has been variously highlighted, the SIP has not been able to fund many technically sound project proposals that met the program criteria in the first 3 rounds of applications as a result of inadequate financial resources in the trust fund. The challenge of inadequate resource mobilization for the SIP has worsened to the extent that the 4th round of application has not been launched up till now. Madam President, in line with the recommendation for the midterm evaluation of the SIP, we will request the Executive Secretary of the Minamata Convention on Mercury and the Director of UNEP to lead the fundraising efforts to sustain the program, while appealing to donors and others in position to do so to prioritize contribution to the trust fund. Madam President, Nigeria is a beneficiary of the SIP, and has recently concluded the implementation of a project titled Capacity Strengthening for Implementation of Minamata Convention on Mercury in Nigeria. The project was able to develop a national implementation strategy, a national action plan for mercury reduction in the cement sector, a national action plan for management of mercury supply sources and trade. We also have a national action plan for environmental and health monitoring. Through the program, we also have a national action plan on mercury-added products and a mercury information system in place. All this will strengthen our ability to meet our obligation under this convention, thanks to SIP. We want to use this opportunity to appreciate the contribution of, because we will not be tired of mentioning their names because they have done extremely well. Australia, Denmark, France, Germany, the Kingdom of the Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, United Kingdom of Great Britain and North Ireland, and the United States of America for the implementation of the SIP. Madam President, Nigeria, we also want to thank the Secretariat of the SIP for their technical support, and especially thank Mrs. Mariam Bailey and Ms. Miria Erinrizo for their effort in seeing that the Nigeria project was effectively and successfully concluded. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Nigeria, for your intervention. Well, I've noticed that the list is constant in the past 5 minutes. So with your permission, I'm going to close the list, but before that, I'm going to name the parties that are going to take the floor. So the first one after I'm speaking is Mali, followed by Iran, followed by the European Union, Turkey, Uganda, United States of America, and Norway. After this, I'm going to open the floor for observers. So with this, I'm giving the floor to Mali, and I ask Iran to be ready because they are going to be the next one.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. From the onset, I would like to support the statement by Botswana on behalf of the African Group. But since this is the first time we take the floor at this COP, I would first and foremost like to thank the government of Switzerland for the warm welcome extended to us and also for financing our participation at this event. I would also like to congratulate the Secretariat for the very successful preparation of this Conference of the Parties. Thank you also to the SIP for financing the LDCs, including Mali, for the implementation of our projects within the framework of the Minamata Convention on Mercury. In this vein, and through this support, the implementation of initial engagements under the Minamata Convention, as well as the draft concerning artisanal gold mining, are part of the training activities that we are now undertaking. We are now hoping that our project, working with UNID, will be approved at the next GEF meeting. And as regards the special program, we are likewise happy to begin implementing a project that has been financed within the framework of the sixth round of strengthening finances. This will help Mali to implement the Basel Convention and the Minamata Convention as well. I'd like to take advantage of this opportunity to call upon donors for them to contribute within the framework of SIP as requested by the Secretariat. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mali. I'm now giving the floor to Iran, followed by the European Union.
Thank you, Madam President. We would like to thank SIP for providing support for parties to enhancing their sustainable institutional capacity for implementation of the Minamata Convention. We also would like to highlight the need for increasing SIP funds considering the big challenges and needs for developing countries to implement their obligations. At the same time, it is a regret to identify the fact that unlike CIP, the other financial mechanism, so-called Global Environmental Facility, that should be in fact global, is discriminating its services to some country parties of the Convention. All Iranian proposals have not been funded due to the fact that the GEF Council has not even agreed to have consideration to these proposals in its agenda. And this approach is unacceptable for us. So the big question is that how we are expected to catch up with other parties while Iran cannot access GEF resources, which is the most important financial leverage of the Convention, let alone accepting new obligations. Iran has frequently brought this fact to the attention of the international gatherings as Conference of the Parties of Minamata Convention, that we believe GEF resources should be available and accessible to all the members. Considering this long and acceptable approach of the GEF, we believe that there is an urgent need to address this challenge that is having a tremendous negative impact on our commitments toward the Convention. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Iran, for your intervention. I'm now giving the floor to the European Union, followed by Turkey.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The statement by the European Union and its member states will concern the three items relating to the Global Environment Fund. The European Union and its member states would like to thank the Secretariat for UNEP document MC-BAC COP5/10. And we'd like to thank the Global Environment Fund and Trust for its contribution to the Minamata Convention and COP5. The European Union and its member states take due note of the information that has been provided within this document. We believe that the GEF plays a key role within the financial mechanism of the Convention. GEF plays an essential role under the guidance of the Conference of the Parties and helps the parties who are in a development stage or in a phase of transition to fulfill their obligations under the Convention. As regards the SIP, the European Union and its member states take due note of the information that has been provided in document UNEP/MC/COP5/11. This document provides transparent information on the progress achieved during the international program since its inception. The European Union and its member states would like to encourage state parties and other interested parties and parties able to do so to increase their efforts in order to contribute further funds to the specific trust fund aimed at helping parties to implement their commitments. These are critical during the second phase of the SIP. As regards this latter point concerning the review of the financial mechanism, the European Union and its member states would like to recognize the work under the second revision of the financial mechanism. We are very thankful for that. This mechanism sends a clear signal concerning its commitment to constantly improve efforts to reduce negative impacts of mercury in the environment and on human health. In light of the conclusions and recommendations emanating from the second review, the European Union and its member states would like to further encourage an increase in financing. The purpose of this financing and of this increase is to strengthen the support to the state parties in conducting the implementation during the steps that are subsequent to the initial period of the specific international program. We would like to encourage the Secretariat to inform on the results of the second review of the mechanism and provide that information at the World Environment Fund meeting. We are also happy to see that draft document on the terms of reference is being prepared for the third review of the financial mechanism, which will be submitted to the consideration of the parties at its 6th meeting. The European Union and its member states would like to thank the Secretariat for preparing a draft decision document on this particular agenda item. Although for the greater part, we do support the proposal. We believe that some elements could be modified. More specifically, I'm referring to paragraphs 2, 4, and 6, where it might be useful to use gentler language in terms of the instructions concerning the replenishment of the next replenishment of JEF. This indicative list might lead people to think that including some elements is something we value more than others. We believe it would be worth referring to synergies with other focal points of the JEF. The European Union and its member states are willing to participate on an active basis in any discussions on this particular agenda item, along with all other parties interested in that discussion. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, European Union. I'm now giving the floor to Turkey, followed by Uganda.
Thank you, Madam President, distinguished delegates. As Turkey delegation, this is our first time taking the floor after becoming a party. So we would like to congratulate you and express our wishes that the Conference of Parties meetings will be productive. Also, we would like to thank the Secretariat for the outstanding work they have conducted during the intersessional period and preparation process, and the Swiss government for hosting the conference. Madam President, Turkey signed the Minamata Convention in 2014, and in 2022, Turkey deposited its instrument of ratification successfully. In this context, between 2017 and 2019, in order to complete the process of becoming a party to the Minamata Convention, to determine the existing situation regarding mercury and the implementation of the convention in our country, a preliminary assessment project on mercury had been carried out by the contribution of Global Environment Facility under the leadership of the Ministry of Environment, Urbanization and Climate Change, and in cooperation with the United Nations Industrial Development Organization. In the scope of this project, institutional and legal gap analysis has been prepared for the national sound management of mercury. Existing legal instruments to comply with the Minamata Convention were reviewed. A national mercury profile, including an inventory, was created. Stakeholder analysis, mercury use, release and emissions, and awareness-raising activities had been carried out. We benefited a lot from this project to prepare our country to the effective implementation of Minamata Convention. We would also like to add that Turkey's policies on environmentally sound management of mercury has more than 40 years history. Many steps had been taken in this regard, and we have provided them to the Secretariat in a detailed written format. Currently, a regulation on mercury for the implementation of the Minamata Convention at the national level has been drafted and is aimed to enter into force in 2024. In this context, we welcome the reports of both GEF and SIP, and we would like to extend our gratitudes to the donor countries for both of the programs. Madam President, with this opportunity, we will give all the constructive contribution we can to the successful conclusion of the Conference of Parties meetings, and we wish a pleasant and fruitful meeting for all the stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Turkey, for your statement. I'm now giving the floor to Uganda, followed by United States of America.
Thank you very much, Madam President. We align ourselves, Uganda aligns itself to Botswana's submission on behalf of the Africa region. Uganda wishes to thank the CIP and the JEF for financing the different programs and projects in the various countries. We, however, kindly request JEF to enhance its financing scope towards chemicals and waste interventions, just like it is for biodiversity-related conventions. And lastly, we kindly request the GEF programs and projects to be integrative in nature, covering chemicals and waste and biodiversity in single projects or programs. This will help to bring national focal points to work together at project implementation, but also it ensures sustainability of the projects and interventions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Uganda. I'm now moving on to the United States of America, followed by Norway.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you to the Secretariat for preparing the review of the financial mechanism for the COP. We are pleased to read from the review that found that the financial mechanism has been effective and had a significant impact on many countries and their implementation of the convention. Regarding the GEF, the United States has been a long-time supporter of the GEF, and we were proud to both commit our largest contribution to date for GEF 8 and to be a vocal and successful advocate for additional funding to the chemicals focal area and specifically to the Minamata Convention. Regarding the SIP, the United States is also proud to be a donor to the SIP, and we agree with the moving intervention made by the co-chair of the SIP Governing Board. Regarding the draft decision that the Secretary prepared, like the EU, we thank them for preparing it. And also, we would agree that there are a few areas where the text could be improved. The EU, and we agree with the EU that paragraphs 4 and 6 in particular deserve some additional attention by the parties. So we would note that we would like to join in any discussions that you decide to give us, Madam President, on this language, and look forward to these discussions with other parties. Thank you.
Thank you very much, United States. I'm moving on now to Norway.
Thank you, Madam President. Norway welcomes the findings of the second review of the financial mechanism. Norway notices with appreciation how the GEF 8 contributes substantially to the implementation of the Minamata Convention. We particularly appreciate how a historically large chemicals and waste window mobilizes other sources of funding. We understand one GEF dollar mobilizes $7 in co-funding, making, in fact, money grow. On the SIP, we thank the Governing Board for its work and the Secretariat for its support to the programme. Norway thanks the other donors who have contributed to the programme. We regret that funding has not yet allowed the launch of a fourth round, and we encourage all parties and other relevant stakeholders in a position to do so to provide funding for the specific trust fund. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Norway. In principle, I was closing the list with Norway's intervention, but since I see a lot of interest, and in order to be very open with you, I will allow 2 more interventions from parties, and then after that, I will move on as proposed. So, with this in mind, I call Chad, followed by Mexico.
Okay. Merci.
Thank you, Madam President, for having given us the floor. We thank you for your able guidance of this important conference. We are also grateful to the Minamata Secretariat on Mercury for having organized this meeting and all the intercessional work. Since this is the first time we are taking the floor, we'd like to extend our gratitude to the host government for their warm welcome. Well, we would also like to stress in our intervention that the Francophone countries of Africa haven't received the document in French on SIP financing, which inevitably limits our participation, in this meeting. we need to open ways for the Francophone countries of Africa to take a more active part in this convention. You can't make an exception because we also need financing. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Chad. I'm moving on to Mexico now, and after that intervention, I will move on to take the first interventions from non-party country.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since it's the first time we take the floor, Mexico would like to express its gratitude to the government of Switzerland for hosting this conference. We would also like to thank the Secretariat for organizing it, and also thanking them for the documents, and also thank all those who have contributed to preparing this event. We'd like to thank the Secretariat and the GEF for the reports that have been presented. Mexico would in particular like to thank the donor countries to this program. Our country has been one of the beneficiaries, and it has contributed to developing 4 projects in our country. The first is in the search for alternatives for primary mercury mining. The second project is on gold and silver mining. The third one is to replace mercury in chloride, and the other one is throughout entire Latin America. We believe that these projects will generate the necessary inputs in order for us to fulfill our commitments under Articles 3.7 and the second part of Annex B of the Minamata Convention. Finally, Madam Chair, we agree with the members of our region concerning the importance that the Secretariat and the Governing Board should develop a funds mobilization strategy and maybe work jointly with the SIP. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mexico. Now, as I said, I'm going to go further and turn my attention to observers. And I will take the first intervention from a non-party country, giving the floor to Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Thank you very much, Madam President, and congratulations for your elections, very well deserved. Since we are taking the floor as a non-party for the first time, would like to extend our gratitude to Minamata Secretariat for excellent organization, and of course to Government of Switzerland for their hospitality. Bosnia and Herzegovina is a non-party, but we would like to inform the parties that we have planned to, we started the procedure of ratification of Minamata Convention, and we plan to restart it, and we would also kindly ask Secretariat for certain support in that sense. We have prepared so far our Minamata initial assessment, and with that we have identified the main sectors, and we prepared also our inventory, and we did gap analysis of our institutional and legal framework. So we wanted to inform the COP about our intention to continue this procedure, and also that we have submitted to a special program to support institutional strengthening at national level of BRS and Minamata Convention and SAICM. Just recently we have prepared this application, and well, we are looking forward and hoping that we will get this kind of support. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bosnia and Herzegovina. Since I don't see any other requests from the observers, I would like to move on now to the organizations. I'm opening the floor. Okay, I see one request for Basel and Stockholm. So you have the floor.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much, Chair. the regional center of the conventions of Bâle and Stockholm, would like to thank the Swiss government for having hosted this fifth meeting of the parties to the Minamata Convention and the Secretariat for organizing this important meeting. I'd also like to thank Switzerland and its federal office for its generous and continuing financial contribution to make it possible for African experts to take part in the international negotiations on managing dangerous chemicals. Our participation in such meetings is of crucial importance to the Africa region. The Center in Senegal is actively engaged in the implementation of projects to strengthen legal and institutional capacity of Burkina Faso, Senegal, and Togo to implement Articles 3 and 4 of the Minamata Convention, finance within the framework of CIP. We bear witness of importance of CIP for developing countries and economies in transition, because the implementation of these commitments under the Minamata Convention is very important. We'd like to thank the Secretariat for its support and its assistance in this matter. And so, Madam President, we would like to call on you, we would like to call for the need of massive mobilization to expedite the CIP program in order to allow all of the eligible countries, particularly from Africa, to profit from that assistance and to meet its obligations under the Minamata Convention. I thank you.
Center. Okay, so I see no more requests for the floor. And indeed, I hear many parties expressing the view on the importance of both GEF and CIP, and also expressing their appreciation to the donors of the two components of the financial mechanism of the Convention. Many parties have also expressed the need for additional funding for CIP to support the implementation of the Convention. Regarding the draft decision in document 12 on the review of the financial mechanism, I've noticed that there is a general support to the draft decision. However, few parties propose to amend the language in few places of the draft decision. More specifically, I heard proposal to amend paragraphs 2, 4, 5, and 6 of the draft decision to refine the language there. I invite those parties who made the proposal to the draft decision to consult each other on the proposed changes and at the same time to provide their proposed edits to specific elements of the draft decision in writing to the Secretariat. I would like to limit the consultation to fine-tuning those paragraphs and ensuring that the suggestions made here today can be very well reflected. I request the Secretariat to facilitate the consultations and prepare a CRP on the review of the financial mechanism. Can you agree on this way forward? I see no objection, which is good. Then we will return to this agenda item later during COP. Okay, thank you very much for your patience. And now we will consider item 4H on capacity building, technical assistance, and technology transfer. But before moving to the next agenda item, I would like to inform you that the CRP has been proposed by the governments of Australia, Canada, Chile, and the United States of America on the study of the global supply, trade, and use of mercury compounds. The CRP is available on the in-session page as CRP 2. Let's now move to the agenda item 4H, that is capacity building, technical assistance, and technology transfer. With this, I would like to invite the Secretariat to introduce the item. Secretariat, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. The document relevant to this agenda item is document 13, paragraph 4 of Article 14 of the Minamata Convention on Capacity Building, Technical Assistance, and Technology Transfer, calls on the Conference of the Parties on a regular basis to consider information on existing initiatives and progress made in relation to alternative technologies. Consider the needs of parties, particularly developing country parties, for alternative technologies, and identify challenges experienced by parties, particularly developing country parties, in technology transfer. Paragraph 5 of Article 14 of the Minamata Convention calls upon the Conference of the Parties to make recommendations on how capacity building, technical assistance, and technology transfer could be further enhanced under the article. Document 13 proposed additional work subject to the provision of voluntary resources that could be concluded by the Secretariat so that the COP can consider a full set of information at COP 6. The document also describes the work that the Secretariat has conducted to increase the development and deployment of training and information materials and other efforts on capacity building and technical assistance, the work that the Secretariat proposes to do in the next biennium 2024-2025, as described in the Programme of Work and Budget Activity Fact Sheet on capacity building and technical assistance, to be further funded by voluntary contributions to the Special Trust Fund. It further describes the role of the UNEP Global Mercury Partnership in support of capacity building, technical assistance, and technology transfer. The annex to document 13 provides a draft decision, and furthermore, information document 32 contains the report of the activities undertaken within the Global Mercury Partnership of UNEP from March 2022 to July 2023. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Secretariat. Now, allow me please to open the floor for comments. As you are used to already, I will open the floor to parties. And I see the list growing, and I will start with Indonesia, followed by Pakistan. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Indonesia is grateful to the esteemed Secretariat, which has facilitated the capacity building and technical assistance programs for the states parties as an effort to improve the level of implementation of the Minamata Convention. We also welcome recommendations from the Implementation Committee Compliance, ICC, to increase capacity in various fields. Indonesia underlines that capacity building, technical assistance, as well as sharing of best practices programs are still required by parties up to date, such as best practices for managing illegally confiscated mercury that have been carried out by state parties to the convention, assistance and or sharing of best practices on remote sensing technology, portable sensors, detectors to monitor the distribution of mercury emissions and releases. Thus, Indonesia invites all parties with relevant capacity to assist or provide, within the scope of their respective capabilities, a capacity building, technical assistance and or technology transfer programs, and or to share their experiences and or good practices to other parties in need in order to support them in meeting the objective and fulfilling the obligation from this convention. Thank you. Terima kasih, Madam President.
Thank you so much, Indonesia, for your intervention. I'm now giving the floor to Pakistan, followed by Saudi Arabia.
Thank you, Madam President. Pakistan would like to appreciate the Secretariat for sharing the information with parties on capacity building, technical assistance, and technology transfer. Pakistan would like to urge the Secretariat to enhance the capacity building and technical assistance, particularly technology transfer to the developing country parties, particularly LDCs and SIDS, to assist them in implementing their obligations under the Convention. Pakistan would also like to urge the developed country parties and other parties within their capabilities to promote and facilitate, supported by the private sector and other relevant stakeholders as appropriate for the development, transfer and diffusion of technology, as well as access to the recent environmentally sound alternative technologies to the developing country parties, in particular the LDCs and SIDS, to strengthen their capacity to effectively implement the Convention. Pakistan would like to emphasize that the Secretariat may include mercury emissions control and mercury waste management technologies, particularly end of life of mercury-added products in the areas for capacity building, technical assistance, and technology transfer in the next biennium. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Pakistan, for your intervention. Now I'm giving the floor to Saudi Arabia, followed by Uruguay.
Thank you, Madam.
Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We would like to thank the Secretariat for facilitating the transfer of technology and technical assistance to developing countries. Madam President, we think that this item is important to achieve the main objective of the Convention, that is to protect the human health and the environment from the emissions of mercury. The Kingdom, in line with its ambitious vision, focuses on the good quality of life and the protection of the environment. It is important that we avail ourselves of any capacity building programs as well as technology transfer with a view to achieving our obligations under the Convention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Saudi Arabia, for your intervention. I'm giving the floor now to Uruguay, followed by Nigeria.
This delegation would like to thank Switzerland for hosting this conference, would like to thank the Secretariat for organizing the regional meetings and organizing this meeting as well. And we would like to congratulate you, Madam Chair, for the work that you have done, as well as for the leadership that you will be providing throughout this coming week. Uruguay would like to underscore and also welcome the work that the regional centers of the Basel Convention and Stockholm Convention have done within the framework of the Minamata Convention. An example of this is the implementation of initial evaluation projects and also the national action plans for artisanal and small-scale mining. We likewise would like to recognize the important work done by the centers in the global monitoring centers. At this point in time, various GRULAC countries have expressed interest in participating in the global monitoring exercise concerning persistent organic pollutants, along with the global monitoring of mercury itself. This will not only provide for efficient use of resources, generating synergies, but it will also contribute to the assessment of the efficiency of the Minamata Convention and also developing capacities in the various countries that are signatories. Last of all, Madam Chair, we would like to thank the Global Mercury Partnership, whose area of work includes extensive reporting as well as activities providing relevant information for our convention. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Uruguay, for your intervention. I'm now giving the floor to Nigeria, followed by Australia.
Thank you, Madam President. Nigeria appreciates the Secretariat for putting together this report and has duly taken note of the information provided in the document. We especially acknowledge the positive impacts the online trading session tagged Minamata Online are making by providing in-depth information about the Convention on Mercury, not only to parties, but interested stakeholders. Nigeria is willing to learn significantly from the information on technologies relevant to reducing and eliminating mercury use in artisanal and small-scale gold mining that is being compiled by the Gold Plus Global Program, and from the experience gained in the countries that are presently implementing the Planet Gold Program. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Nigeria, for your intervention. I'm moving now to Australia, followed by the European Union.
Thank you, Madam President. Australia supports the proposal for the Secretariat to conduct a desktop study of alternative technologies, and particularly supports engagement with the private sector as part of this process. We wish to also request the study is respectful of and responsive to Indigenous peoples and local knowledge, and pays particular regard to the knowledge and needs of our Pacific Island countries. Australia would welcome the opportunity to contribute information to the Secretariat's review, and we are keen to work with our esteemed colleagues from Papua New Guinea to share information on our recent joint research project utilising thiosulfate-based leaching technology to replace mercury in a small-scale gold mining context. While not yet a party to the Minamata Convention, Papua New Guinea has demonstrated considerable leadership in their efforts to transition away from mercury use and ASGM. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Australia, for your intervention. I'm now giving the floor to the European Union, followed by South Africa.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta. Con respecto a este punto.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. On the subject of capacity development and technological transfer, the European Union and its member states would like to thank the Secretariat for providing document MC COP 5/13 on capacity development, technical assistance, and technology transfer. And we'd also like to thank them for the additional information that has been provided in documents UNEP/MP/COP5/INF/15, as well as document UNEP/MC/COP5/INF/16. We believe, Madam Chair, that this documentation represents an excellent starting point for the discussion. The European Union and its member states would like to avoid duplication with the financial mechanism review. As the name clearly points out, the specific international program for the development of capacities as well as technical assistance does provide support for the development of capacity and technical assistance, and these are also covered by the review of the financial mechanism. Madam Chair, the European Union and its member states would like to thank the Secretariat for preparing a draft decision on this particular agenda item. Although we support in general terms this draft decision, we would seek clarifications concerning paragraph 1 in the draft decision, in particular as regards the following statement, and I quote, desktop study and case studies, as well as areas in which these could take place, and also the consequences and budgetary implications. In para 9, Madam Chair, we would like to include some amendments which we will be providing in writing. We are ready and willing to participate actively in the discussions on this particular agenda item. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, you. I'm moving on now to South Africa, followed by United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Like many ahead of us, we also would like to thank the Secretariat for sharing information on capacity building, technical assistance, and technology transfer. As a developing country, like many other developing countries, and in particular in the African region, South Africa requires capacity building programs and technical assistance in the following areas. And because of time, I will only list 3. Firstly, in the establishment of a sustainable system for the collection, monitoring, and interpreting data on mercury use, trade, emissions, and releases and disposal. Secondly, capacity building on training of customs and regulatory officials on the control of illegal import of mercury containing products into the country. This followed or supported by technology transfer. And lastly, Madam President, we do need capacity building on training of dental professionals and students in the use of mercury-free dental restoration techniques and materials for the practices in dental clinics in the use of dental, in replacing the use of dental amalgam. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, South Africa. I'm giving the floor now to United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, followed by Uganda.
Thank you, Madam President. So we note the importance of capacity building, technical assistance, and technology transfer to the implementation of this convention. For this decision, however, like our colleagues from the European Union, we find there are some slight amendments to the text that could be made to make this decision clearer. So in particular, we would like to insert the phrase "on mutually agreed terms" to follow any reference made to technology transfer. So for this decision, this would apply in paragraphs 5, 6, and 7. Thank you.
Thank you very much, UK, for your intervention. I'm moving on now to Uganda, followed by Japan.
Thank you so much, Madam President. On behalf of Botswana, representing the Africa region, we wish to thank the Secretariat for the great steps it has taken in capacity building and providing technical assistance to parties within the African region. However, there is need for technology transfer, especially with regard to mercury-free technologies in the artisanal and small-scale gold mining sector. In 2022, Government of Uganda banned the use of mercury in mining and provided a flexible licensing regime for artisanal and small-scale gold miners, such that they are able to shift away from the use of mercury. However, this will call for technology transfer and capacity building in that sector and also for the institutions. We are privileged to have the Planet Gold program running in Uganda, and it has taken very good root. However, we need to increase the scope of the intervention in the area of ASGN. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Uganda, for your intervention. I'm giving the floor now to Japan, followed by the Islamic Republic of Iran. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. We would first express our sincere appreciation to the government of Switzerland for hosting the meeting in such a wonderful manner, and congratulations to the Madam President for your excellent leadership. Thank you so much. And we would also thank you to the Secretariat for well organizing the meeting, including intersessional discussion and meeting preparation. So, Madam President, with regard to capacity building, we would warmly welcome the Secretariat proposal, including the draft decision on the capacity building, technical assistance, and technology transfer. Japan has been organizing various bilateral and multilateral projects for capacity building, technology transfers, and technical assistance under the MOYAI initiative for networking, assessment, and strengthening, called MINUS project. MOYAI is a Japanese word also often used in Minamata, which means good humanistic cooperation. So our capacity building activities is based on this beautiful concept. And in line with this draft decision, Japan will continue to share our knowledge and experiences regarding the mercury management in collaboration with UNEP and other international organizations. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Japan, for your intervention. I'm now moving on to the Islamic Republic of Iran, followed by Argentina.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and congratulated you. Islamic Republic of Iran firmly emphasized on the circumstances and particular requirements of developing countries, in particular the need to strengthen national capabilities and capacities for the management of mercury, including transfer of environmentally and sound technology, training, providing financial and technical assistance, and promoting cooperation among the developed and developing parties at all levels. Without basic infrastructure, sufficient funding, and the ability of replacing appropriate technologies for the implementation of Minamata Convention, developing countries have difficulties to meet the obligations of the Convention. Transformation of industries and other relevant sectors, such as healthcare, towards mercury-free production requires huge investment in terms of financial assistance, cost-effective and accessible technology and equipment, as well as capacity building. As Article 13 and 14 of the Convention emphasize on the need to make arrangements for providing technical assistance and promoting the transfer of technology to developing countries, parties to fulfill their obligation under the Convention, we believe that these areas should be high priority for the COPs if we are determined to realize the objective of the Convention. In our opinion, current cooperation and coordination to technology transfer in order to implement the Minamata Convention is insufficient, and it is expected to be extended to all parties, either through the Secretariat and other established mechanisms pursuant to the provision of conventions. So we put emphasis on the necessity to identify challenges experienced by parties in technology transfer, as some parties have considerable difficulty to access and modernize those certain technologies in the industry and other sources related with mercury. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Iran. Well, I've noticed that in the past 10 minutes, the list stayed the same. So I would like to propose you to close the list for the parties, and I will name the parties that are going to take the floor. And after that, I will open the floor for observers. So having this in mind, there are 5 more parties that would like to take the floor in this order: Argentina, Togo, United States of America, Madagascar, and Burkina Faso. So with this, I'm giving the floor to Argentina, followed by Togo.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Argentina considers that making progress on this item is of vital importance in order to move along with the implementation of the Minamata Convention. In this connection, we'd like to thank the Secretariat and the regional centers for the job done in this regard. However, we are also convinced that there is a long road ahead of us as well, Madam Chair. By way of example, as regards the contamination with mercury, it is not just the identification of waste that is important, but also having available the technologies that allow for the treatment and disposal of mercury waste. This technology is not readily available in many countries of our region, and for this reason, they have to travel across borders over long distances, which, of course, entails risks and other impacts, among other financial impacts. For this reason, we hope that during this COP, we can invite the developing countries to inform the Secretariat of their technical needs, their technology transfer needs, and we hope that the developed countries and other interested parties with the necessary capacity will send to the Secretariat information on technical assistance they can provide and the technology that they have available so that it can be duly transferred. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Argentina, for your statement. I'm now giving the floor to Togo, followed by United States of America.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since Togo is taking the floor for the first time, our delegation would like to congratulate the Secretariat for the organization and Switzerland for its warm hospitality. We would also like to congratulate you for the progress achieved since the signature of this convention. We would also like to back the statements by the Africa region. We would like to welcome the efforts undertaken by all stakeholders in order to achieve the main objectives of the convention, that is to say, the protection of human health and environment against the risk of mercury pollution. Since the ratification of the Minamata Convention on February 3, 2017, Togo has endeavored to implement its provisions. In this regard, we'd like to thank the Secretariat and the Capacity Strengthening Project and other institutional framework strengthening for implementation of Articles 3 and 4 of the Minamata Convention, financed by the SIP, have allowed Togo, along with Burkina Faso and Senegal, to become active stakeholders in regard to products containing mercury or added mercury. And we hope, therefore, in a close horizon or near by date, to be able to do away with products containing mercury. We would like to thank the Secretariat for its efforts in achieving technological transfer for the developing countries. Likewise, we would like to reiterate our call to donors in order to strengthen their contributions, aiming at eliminating mercury completely throughout the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Togo, for your intervention. I'm giving the floor now to the United States, followed by Madagascar.
Thank you, Madam President. We welcome the note from the Secretary on capacity building, technical assistance, and technology transfer. The United States participates actively in the UNEP Global Mercury Partnership, which actively supports these efforts. We encourage other countries and stakeholders to become partners to the Global Mercury Partnership, which the United States has found to be a useful forum for sharing information on how best to implement convention-related activities. Examples include finding alternatives to mercury-added products in Annex A and exploring new ideas, such as considering possible approaches to use the harmonized tariff system to support Article 4. Turning to the draft decision, we appreciate the Secretary for preparing the decision, though we, like some others have noted, we believe it does need a few amendments. We support what the UK intervened on regarding the references to technology transfer and believe those should be under mutually agreed terms. We also took note of footnotes on paragraphs 5, 6, and 7, indicating that these paragraphs were prepared by the Secretariat on the basis of relevant recommendations included in the report on the work of the Implementation and Compliance Committee. We assume these footnotes are included only for context in the pre-meeting documents and would not become part of any decisions as adopted. We would appreciate if the Secretariat could confirm this understanding. So while we support the substance of these paragraphs, we are concerned about the framing as purported compliance issues warranting recommendations from the ICC. To our knowledge, the ICC's report did not identify any compliance issues related to financial or technical assistance under Article 13 or 14, nor does it appear to include any convincing explanation tying specific compliance cases under other articles to a lack of financial or technical assistance. Accordingly, we cannot support any language in this decision, including in the footnotes, framing these recommendations as ICC issues. Further, we note that paragraph 5 simply restates an existing obligation under Article 14 and calls upon parties to continue to implement that provision. In our view, adopting a COP decision calling upon parties to continue to do something they are already doing, indeed something they are legally obligated to do under the Convention, is of questionable value. It is odd indeed for the COP to call upon parties to continue implementing obligations they are already implementing. With that said, we will not oppose the inclusion of this paragraph, but note that it should not set a precedent for future decisions. In sum, we can support the inclusion of paragraphs 5 through 7 as long as there is no language linking them to the work of the ICC. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, United States of America, for your statement. I'm now giving the floor to the last, 1 second. I see there are some changes here. So on my list, there were like 2 parties, but now I see only 1, and this is Madagascar. In this case, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame.
Thank you, Madam President. Since this is the first time that the delegation of Madagascar is taking the floor, I'd like to reiterate my congratulations to the government of Switzerland and to the Secretariat for having organized this meeting. And congratulations to yourself, Madam President, on your election and your very efficient leadership. Madagascar is a state party to the Minamata Convention. Since May 2015, different activities have been put in place in the country within the framework of the Minamata Convention. For example, a project, Minamata Initial Assessment, the National Action Plan for the small-scale and artisanal gold mining, and the project titled Planet Gold. Quite a lot of activities are also being conducted in strengthening capacity, technical assistance, and the transfer of technologies on the management of mercury-containing waste, the phase-out and bans on mercury-containing products at national level, and we also need capacity strengthening for these areas. I thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Madagascar, for your intervention. I see Burkina Faso taking the floor, so it's yours.
Ok, merci bien.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Once again, Burkina Faso welcomes this initiative by the Secretariat to strengthen capacity and to transfer technologies, as have been well pointed out this morning. Burkina Faso is trying to use new technologies, particularly with regard to gold mining without mercury. So we are now putting in place measures which allow us to mine gold without mercury, and we welcome financial and technical support in order to diffuse that technology to our entire region. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Burkina Faso, for your intervention. And with your intervention, actually, the list with the parties is exhausted. So now I'm going to move and take the first intervention of observers. And first on my list, it's soon-to-be party, Kenya. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since it's the first time that the Kenyan delegation is taking the floor, we would like to thank the government of Switzerland for hosting the COP and the hospitality, and the Minamata Convention Secretariat for the well-organized COP. We would also like to congratulate the Minamata Convention for the 10 years celebration this year since 2013. We would also like to support all statements given on behalf of the African region. As a new, soon-to-be party to the convention, Kenya will soon be presenting its capacity building and technical assistance, including technology transfer requirements. Kenya appreciates previous areas of capacity support in mercury initial assessment activities. Kenya equally acknowledges efforts towards technology support through GEF-funded projects targeting the ASGM sector. However, Kenya notes significant gaps in capacity building and technology support, especially in the health monitoring and health-related interventions within the ASGM sector. Kenya welcomes technical support in health monitoring and implementation of the health strategies provided for in the NAPS. As a net importing country, faced with challenges of illegal trade on mercury-added products, such as skin lightening creams, we welcome support to enhance parties' capacity to test and monitor imports of mercury products through provision of equipment such as handheld XRF machines, which would facilitate border/import monitoring, especially for custom officials and port of entries. Kenya equally welcomes capacity support in best available techniques and best environmental practices to control releases of mercury emissions for key sectors like cement production. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Kenya. And now let me turn to organizations, and I'm going to give the floor to United Nations Environmental Program. So UNEP, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The United Nations Environment Program thanks you for the opportunity to present its work in support of the Minamata Convention under a specific program in the ACP region. Before doing that, and as this is the first time we take in the floor, I would like to also express our congratulations to you, Madam Chair, for your COP presidency, and our sincere thanks to the government of Switzerland for their great hospitality, as well as our colleagues in the Secretariat for the organization of this meeting. Through our partnership between UNEP, the European Commission, and the ACP Secretariat, and in collaboration with the European Environmental Bureau's Zero Mercury Working Group, UNEP contributed to the implementation of specific objectives related to the Minamata Convention on Mercury. The work focused mainly on phasing out mercury-added products and reducing mercury in artisanal small-scale gold mining. Madam Chair, I'm pleased to inform you that major achievements have been realized under this program. To be more specific, this support was provided to national focal points and focal points of Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, and Trinidad and Tobago by collaborating on the development of mercury-free procurement strategies, roadmaps, and policies in the same countries towards phasing out mercury-added products. Through the same support, earlier this year, a regional conference was co-organized on phasing out mercury-added products in the Caribbean in collaboration with the Caribbean Communities Secretariat, CARICOM. The event was held in Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago, and it gathered about 50 participants in person and online, including representatives of 14 countries in the Caribbean region. This gave them a great opportunity to draft their roadmaps towards phasing out of mercury-added products. With regards to the work towards phasing out mercury use of artisanal small-scale mining, 2 ASGM projects in Uganda and Sierra Leone were successfully completed. In Uganda, the project involved about 180 people, including district leaders, miners, cooperatives, delegates, and miners. It provided training about health effects of mercury, as well as practical trainings on extracting gold without mercury. The project in Sierra Leone focused on women and managed to involve 90 women in 3 different districts, providing trainings about health effects on mercury and entrepreneurship. Through its funding provided by UNEP, additional support was provided in Africa for phasing out mercury-added products, Article 4 of the Minamata Convention, focusing on skin lightening creams through the renewal of contracts with partners in Kenya and Nigeria, who are now closely working with government ministries and agencies. Campaigns on skin lightening products, creams, have also been extended with NGOs in Uganda and South Africa after they had expressed interest. Last, Madam Chair, UNEP is also promoting integration of and synergies of the Minamata Convention objectives and the several MEAs as part of the Africa Regional Preparatory Progress for the ongoing post-2020 framework process, and BRS plus Minamata national implementation through the development of policy briefs and providing technical support and advice to, for instance, IGAD states delegations. This includes providing guidance and technical assistance for the development of the IGAD strategy or action plan for post-2020 framework and its institutionalization. Madam Chair, UNEP will provide more information on support provided to Minamata parties through other interventions throughout the week. We thank you for giving us the floor.
Thank you very much, UNEP, for your intervention. And I have only one more observer on my list, and this is European Environment Bureau. With this, I'm giving the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm talking on behalf of the Zero Mercury Working Group. We are very happy to see that the work towards phasing out mercury-added products has been getting more traction and attention this year. Indeed, the work in this area needs to be reinforced, as also mentioned on the ICC report. The Zero Mercury Working Group became a co-lead of the Global Mercury Partnership on Products, and together with the US EPA, several informative webinars and meetings were organized, contributing to the parties' preparation for the COP.
Madam Chair, kindly ask the reader to slow down. It's too fast for the interpreters. Please slow down.
Who have been assisting their respective governments with the implementation of mercury-added product phase-out provisions and focus on skin lightening creams.
Excuse me. I'm so sorry. I said that I'm not going to intervene, but speak a little bit more slow. The interpreters are going wild. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Our global skin lightening cream campaign, contributing to raising this issue, would have not been possible without the wide NGO network, and we want to thank our partners for this support, as well as our funders for their trust. In the interest of time, as our work was just described by UNEP, I will just thank once more UNEP and the European Commission for their support under the third phase of the ACP MEAs program, which contributes to our work assisting Caribbean countries towards phasing out mercury-added products. Complementary to this work, the Zero Mercury had the opportunity to assist more governments as a resource at the global workshop on MAPS organized by the Secretariat last June. We do appreciate this acknowledgement to our work. You are welcome to pass by our booth, where we can share our experiences and tools towards phasing out mercury-added products, and also in relation to skin lightening creams. As always, we look forward to working collaboratively and, where appropriate, assisting parties towards our common goal, making mercury history. Thank you.
Thank you very much, EEB, for your intervention. Well, I was just checking that basically we have only 20 minutes left. I can request on my name, let's say, 10 minutes more, but that's it. So for the moment, I will allow, in the spirit of cooperation, for Malawi to also have a statement, but just please be short and concise. And after that, I will see how we can proceed. So please, Malawi, only for the spirit of cooperation, you have the floor.
Thank you. Since Malawi is first time to take the floor, would like to join all parties to thank the government of Switzerland who are hosting the meeting. We also would like to thank the Secretariat for all the preparatory works for the meeting. Malawi recently ratified the Minamata Convention, and obviously we have many gaps in capacity building. We therefore need your support in areas of mercury-free amalgam and also enforcement of regulatory authorities, amongst others. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. So with this, I have no further requests for the floor. And because in the intervention presented, at least two parties requested some explanations, I'm now giving the floor to the Secretariat to provide this information.
Thank you. With respect to the question on paragraph 1 of the draft decision text, what we've proposed in this paragraph is a desk study and case studies, and the idea for these would be to pull together existing information on ongoing or completed projects, and the case studies would be a subset of those, where we would pull out just kind of snapshot information on successful or interesting approaches. being used for various mercury management purposes. And these would look something like what the Planet Gold program has done in Information Document 7 on artisanal and small-scale gold mining and the technology case studies that they have provided. That was sort of the idea behind this work. The question also asked what areas would be covered, and because it's a desk study, it's really just a limited compilation of existing information that's readily available. I would note that these would all be done with the provision of voluntary resources, and this is a line item in the special trust fund component in the program of work and budget fact sheets under capacity building and technical assistance. There was also a comment on the footnotes, and yes, with respect to the footnotes, it is our understanding that those would be removed in final decision text. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretariat, for the comments. And thank you all for the views expressed in your interventions. So all the parties who actually spoke emphasized the importance of capacity building, technical assistance, and technology transfer for the successful implementation of the convention and also for achieving the goal of the convention. I've noticed that several parties also shared information on their activities to provide support to other parties. Also, some other parties indicated areas where further support to build capacity and provide technical assistance is really needed. Developing parties were also invited to provide information on their needs in this area to the Secretariat. We also heard encouragement to parties to engage in the Global Mercury Partnership. And finally, I note some concern raised by parties related to how the results of the work by the Implementation and Compliance Committee are reflected in the proposed draft decision. So, document 13 and its annex contain a draft decision on capacity building, technical assistance, and technology transfer. Having listened the interventions, I believe that there is a general support to the proposed decision, and there are also some suggestions on how to work foreseen in the draft decision could be done in practice in order to ensure engagement and avoid duplication of work with review of the financial mechanism. However, one party supported by another party proposed a slight amendment to paragraph 5, 6, and 7 of the draft decision to add, I'm quoting, on mutually agreed terms, stop quoting, when reference is made to technology transfer and another party also expressed their wish to amend paragraph 9 of the draft decision. Thank in advance to that party for submitting your proposed edits to the Secretariat. Based on your input, I propose the following. With the help of the Secretariat, I will prepare a CRP which will be based on the proposed draft decision in document 13 and which will incorporate the proposed slight amendment to paragraphs 5, 6, and 7 to include on mutually agreed terms, and which will also take into account the proposal to be provided regarding paragraph 9 and also other specific comments expressed. We'll come back to this agenda item later during the COP. With this, I'm asking you to let us proceed to the next agenda item, namely item 4C, artisanal and small-scale gold mining. Okay, so having this in mind, I just want to remind you that basically we have 10 minutes officially and maybe extra 10. So in 20 minutes, I propose you just to start this topic on the agenda and see how far can we go. Well, now, so going back to what was I proposing to deal now with item 4C on artisanal and small-scale gold mining. The progress that parties are making in implementation of Article 7 is of vital importance to this conference. With this, I'm giving the, what? No? 1 second. Oh. Yes. Well, basically, I know that you know, but I'm going to recall that COP4 adopted the updated guidance for preparing national action plans for ASGM. COP4 also called upon parties to engage indigenous peoples, local communities, and other relevant stakeholders in the development and implementation of national action plans, and requested the Secretariat to undertake some work in that regard. With this, I'm requesting the Secretariat to inform on the content of the document prepared for this agenda item. Secretariat, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, distinguished delegates. Working Document 6 provides information on the status of implementation of Article 7 on artisanal and small-scale gold mining. This includes the status of notifications to the Secretariat by those parties who have determined that artisanal and small-scale gold mining and processing in their territories in which mercury amalgamation is used is more than insignificant. Those parties shall develop and submit a national action plan no later than 3 years following their notification or following entry into force of the convention for that party, whichever is later. Those parties shall also implement the plan, review the parties' overall progress in the implementation of Article 7 every 3 years, and include such reviews in Article 21 reports. As presented in Document 6, and also as set out in Information Document 2, as of 1st of August 2023, 43 such notifications and 27 national action plans had been submitted by parties. Some national action plans for which the deadline for submission has passed have not yet been submitted. Some parties are now beginning to face their deadlines for undertaking their first implementation reviews. Working Document 6 also provides information on work undertaken pursuant to Decision MC4/4, Paragraph 2, which calls upon parties to engage indigenous peoples, local communities, and other relevant stakeholders in the development and implementation of NAPs. And Paragraph 3, which requests the Secretariat to compile views on the needs and priorities of indigenous peoples, local communities, and local communities with regard to the use of mercury in ASGM. The annex to the document contains a draft decision for consideration by the Conference of the Parties. Furthermore, Information Document 6 provides background information on data and lessons learned in the development and implementation of the initial NAPs that have been submitted. Information Document 7 presents a document developed by the Planet Gold Program, funded by the Global Environment Facility, on lessons learned from technology transfer activities in Phase 1 of the program, with fact sheets from each of the 8 participating countries. Information Document 8 provides an overview of the intersessional work on the relationships, needs and priorities of indigenous peoples, as well as local communities with regard to the use of mercury in artisanal and small-scale gold mining. Finally, information document number 9 provides a technical background document on how to monitor mercury in and around ASGM sites, including the need to cooperate with indigenous peoples, local communities, and other stakeholders in the context of monitoring initiatives and programs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretariat, for the introduction. And distinguished delegates, please allow me, before I open the floor for interventions, that I would like to remind you that we have a CRP that was proposed by the GRULAC region and co-sponsored by Australia and Canada on the effects of mercury pollution on indigenous people and on local communities. The CRP is available on the in-session documents page as CRP1. It is my pleasure now to invite Brazil to present CRP1. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is a statement on behalf of our regional group. On behalf of the GRULAC, I'm glad to announce that our region has submitted CRP1 on the effects of mercury pollution on indigenous peoples and on local communities. CRP is also co-sponsored by Australia and Canada. Last COP's decision on ASGM called attention to indigenous peoples as well as to local communities with regard to the effect of mercury pollution caused by gold mining. It was a very important step in fulfilling the objective of the convention, as it addressed the main source of mercury pollution worldwide from the perspective of groups that are most affected by it. However, it only addresses part of the problem. Mercury from other sources, such as waste management and contaminated sites, also threatens the health and livelihoods of these groups, who are particularly exposed to pollution owing to their close relationship with the environment and its resources. Even if ASGM were halted today, they would still be facing the effects of the existing mercury pollution for a long time. That is why we believe a next step should be taken, which could, of course, benefit from previous work, particularly from the report prepared by the Secretary in fulfillment of decision MCM4/4, which is currently being presented to the COP under document INF 8. The Minamata Convention is the first multilateral environment agreement adopted after the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. And we think it is only natural that it at last addresses the concern of these communities from a broad perspective. And lastly, I just noticed a minor error, a typo, in the document we submitted, so we will reach out to the Secretariat for its correction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brazil, for your presentation. And now I would like to invite interventions from the floor on the first draft decision on artisanal and small-scale gold mining as contained in document 6. After that, I will open the floor for interventions on CRP1. So, I repeat, the floor is open to intervention for the draft decision, and as you know already, I will give priority to parties first. So I'm going to check my list, and I see that the first party, the fastest, was Uganda, and she will be followed by Guyana. So Uganda, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam President. On behalf of Botswana, which represents the African region, Uganda wishes to thank the Secretariat and the GEF for financing Uganda's National Action Plan for Artisanal and Small-Scale Gold Mining, which was developed in 2019. We hereby request for financing of parties, including Uganda, to review their NAPs so as to enable them to integrate the needs or adequately integrate the needs of the indigenous people, gender concerns, and most importantly, align it to the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, which is looking at the linkage between ASGM and biodiversity sustainability. In addition, reviewing of the NAPs will enable us to integrate provisions of sharing benefits with the indigenous people where mining is taking place in their landscapes. The NAP revealed that mercury use is slowly trickling into the landscapes where indigenous people are found, and therefore it is important right now to review the current decision and adopt it when the time comes. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Uganda, for your intervention. I'm now moving to Guyana, followed by Canada.
Thank you, Madam President. And since this is the first time that Guyana is taking the floor, we wish to extend our appreciation to the government and people of Switzerland, and of course the Secretariat for facilitating this 5th meeting of the Conference of Parties to the Minamata Convention. Guyana wishes to thank the Global Environmental Facility and the United Nations Environment Program for the financial and technical support that led to the development and submission of the National Action Plan for Artisanal and Small-Scale Gold Mining in Guyana. As we continue the good progress on implementation of the National Action Plan, Guyana welcomes practical, user-friendly guidance to help relevant parties prepare and complete reviews. Further additional support through the Global Environmental Facility to parties undertaking first such review as part of enabling activity and support available to parties would significantly contribute to allowing parties to comply with Article 7, Paragraph 3C of the Convention. Madam President, Guyana's Low Carbon Development Strategy 2030, which aligns national strategies with our international commitments, provides clear guidance in support of low-impact mining and that enhances the employment and economic benefits created by the mining sectors, while also advancing efforts to safeguard Guyana's ecosystem services. The government, through our national and international obligations, has established a robust set of strategic objectives and activities that will see agencies and industry progress the work of exploring methodologies and technologies to increase mineral recovery while reducing the use of mercury in the ASGM sector in Guyana. Government continues to collaborate with industry to utilize accessible, applicable, efficient, and affordable technology to ensure that miners in the sector are equipped with the technical and technological capacity. Our mining and environmental protection laws and regulations, coupled with other strong and evolving legislations, not only protect human health and the environment, but promotes inclusive governance and interagency collaborations, providing increased opportunities for Guyana to achieve our strategic objectives. The implementation of the National Action Plan for Artisanal and Small-Scale Gold Mining strategic objectives, intervention areas, and actions are a clear declaration of our national, regional, and global commitment to reducing the use of mercury and mercury compounds in mining, and robustly combating the effects of mercury use, while safeguarding the health and livelihoods of our people and their future generations, and protecting the environment. Madam President, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Guyana, for your intervention. I'm moving now to Canada, followed by Pakistan.
Thank you, Madam President. As Canada takes the floor for the first time, we would like to extend our gratitude to you, to the Secretariat, and to the Government of Switzerland for their warm welcome here in Geneva. Your hospitality sets the stage for what we anticipate will be a very productive meeting. We would like to extend our appreciation to the efforts of countries that have already submitted their national action plans. Their commitment sets a precedent. Merci beaucoup pour votre travail. Muchas gracias por su trabajo. We also encourage parties that have benefited from the Global Environment Facility support to finalize and submit their national action plans promptly. Our appreciation also extends to the collaborative work of Cincia Norway, which has provided crucial guidance on monitoring mercury in and around ASGM sites. Their contributions significantly improve our understanding and approach to this pressing issue. In light of the above, Canada proposes the following draft decision text for the COP's consideration. We, the Conference of Parties, welcome the guidance document provided by Cincia Norway on monitoring mercury in ASGM sites. We request the Secretariat to ensure this document is readily accessible for the benefit of all parties. To conclude, we would like to take this opportunity to express that Canada is pleased to co-sponsor the CRP presented by the GRULAC region concerning the impacts of mercury pollution on indigenous peoples, as well as of local communities, as they are particularly vulnerable to mercury exposure. We believe that prioritizing the needs and well-being of indigenous people and local communities is an important step towards a more inclusive and sustainable future for all. Thank you for your attention.
Merci beaucoup, Canada. Thank you. Okay, so we are already in our extra time. We said 10 minutes, 5 past already. So I will propose you the following. Just again, to reiterate the spirit of collaboration, I will take the next 3 parties on my list because I know that they have very concisive interventions. And after that, I would like to close this topic for today, and because we will not have time to finish all the intervention. But tomorrow morning, when we are going to start our meeting with this topic on the agenda, the first party on the list who is going to speak is Nigeria, and is going to be followed by Indonesia, United States of America, Burkina Faso, Guinea, Australia, Brazil, and Mexico. And this is also because of the interpreters' time that stopped already, so with their indulgence, we can spend 5 more minutes maximum, and I'm giving the floor to Pakistan, followed by Colombia, and I'm closing today's interventions on this topic with the European Union. So Pakistan, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, for allowing us the floor. Pakistan would like to appreciate this Secretariat for conducting a study to understand the needs and priorities of indigenous peoples and local communities that are affected by mercury pollution originating from artisanal and small-scale gold mining. We would also like to appreciate the Secretariat for the development of technical document pertaining to monitoring of mercury in and around sites of artisanal and small-scale gold mining. Pakistan would like to support the guidance document for the preparation of a national action plan to reduce and, where feasible, eliminate mercury use in artisanal and small-scale gold mining. We also support the guidance regarding the sound tailings management for protecting human health and environment from ASGM. We would also like to suggest to the Secretariat and World Health Organization to conduct a dedicated and detailed study on the health impacts of mercury on pregnant women and children working in ASGM sector. Pakistan is implementing a project on development of National Action Plan for ASGM sector with the financial support of GEF. We would also like to suggest that GEF resources may be enhanced for addressing the problems emanating from the ASGM sector. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Pakistan, for your intervention. I'm giving the floor now to Colombia, followed by the European Union.
Gracias, señora Presidente.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The Colombian delegation would like to... Thank you, Madam Chair. We would like to support the project on ISGM, which is being presented for consideration of the parties. More specifically, we would like to respectfully call upon the GEF in order to seek its support for the review that will contribute to the guidelines document concerning action plans for reducing or, if possible, eliminating the use of mercury in artisanal gold mining. In light of the above, we would like to express our support presented to the Secretariat, whereby it is requested to present an additional section of the orientation document concerning the drafting of a national action plan that will address cooperation and effective participation of the indigenous peoples, local communities, and other stakeholders in the drafting and in the enforcement of such plans. I would also take the liberty of informing the plenary that in fulfillment of Article 7 of the Minamata Convention, Colombia will be presenting its artisanal mining plan next week. This result is the outcome of considerable work in which more than 20 entities of the national government participated, receiving also contributions of indigenous people, local communities, the academic world, various professions, and citizens in general. The National Small-Scale Artisanal Mining Plan is proof of our country's compliance with the convention and its objectives, which are to protect human health and the environment from toxic emissions and toxic pollution from mercury. Now we have before us the most complex challenge, and that is the actual implementation of the plan. That said, we have full confidence that we will be able to comply with all the commitments that we signed on to in this document. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Colombia, for your intervention. I'm now moving on to the European Union.
Thank you, Madam President. The European Union and its member states would like to thank the Minamata Secretariat for preparing this draft decision on artisanal and small-scale gold mining. We'd like to highlight our recognition of the importance of addressing this critical issue, which directly impacts human health, ecosystems, and biodiversity, and is a key area for the full implementation of the Minamata Convention. We acknowledge the undeniable importance of taking substantive actions to reduce and, where possible, eliminate the use of mercury in artisanal small-scale gold mining. This endeavor is not only pivotal for safeguarding human health, but also for preserving the integrity of our lands and the diverse ecosystems they host, including our cherished biodiversity. We express our gratitude to the Minamata Secretariat for their unwavering efforts to raise awareness about the harmfulness of mercury use in artisanal small-scale gold mining. Their support in assisting parties with the development of national action plans is crucial, and we commend their commitment. Collectively, we must embrace a resolute commitment to advancing the implementation of Article 7, which pertains to artisanal small-scale gold mining. We pledge our full support to the call for stepping up our efforts, urging parties and the Global Environment Facility to explore innovative avenues for executing projects that encapsulate biodiversity, land conservation, international waters, and trade. Our resolve is steadfast, and we will endeavor to press forward, making sure that national action plans are effectively executed through the collaborative pursuit of projects and programs. We are cognizant of the importance of ensuring the involvement and informed consent of indigenous peoples and local communities. in addressing the ASGM occurring within their territories. At the same time, we are committed to promoting the development of alternative, sustainable economic activities, multilateral cooperative efforts to support the enforcement of national laws represent the cornerstone of the approach we have in mind. In line with our commitment to these principles, we are in agreement and fully prepared to adopt the draft decision presented in document UNEP/MC/COP/5/6 with small amendments which we'll submit in writing. This decision is emblematic of our collective commitment to addressing the pressing concerns surrounding mercury use in artisanal and small-scale gold mining. I thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you very much, the European Union. Well, delegates, colleagues, we are coming to the end of today's afternoon plenary session. And I do have a request from Switzerland to take the floor for a very special announcement. So Switzerland, please take the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam President. To give me the floor for just a very brief moment, it is my pleasure to welcome all of you and invite you on behalf of the government of Switzerland to a Swiss reception taking place now, after the close of this plenary. There has already been a lot of work done since you have arrived to this conference center, and so the reception is to welcome you to Geneva once again, but also to already get the first break from meeting rooms and have the opportunity to chat informally and take a break. It would be nice if all of you can join for a moment. I think we have many people attending this COP, and on the first day in particular. Geneva hosts many organizations, IGOs, NGOs, and most parties are represented in Geneva through a mission. That makes this city the international center for the global chemicals, waste, and pollution governance. And the Minamata Convention is one crucial piece of it. And the reception is offered by the Swiss government. It is also an opportunity to receive a small gift from Switzerland if you have not yet done so earlier today. It will all take place now on the first floor of this building in the restaurant area, and we are looking forward to enjoying some food and drinks with all of you there. See you there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Switzerland, for your generous hospitality, which will greatly help us stay inspired for the rest of the week. I would like to express my deep appreciation to the government of Switzerland for this and for its role in hosting the Secretariat of the Minamata Convention here in Geneva. Well, I can say that the time went very quickly, but I believe that we were productively. And I would like to thank you, the delegates, for your hard work, spirit of cooperation, which I very much appreciate, and the ability to resolve and keep our agenda on track. We have been able to make some rapid progress, but we still have quite a bit of work to complete, not least one of the items presented this morning. I'm about to adjourn the plenary now, and tomorrow morning, I will first call on the co-chair of the contact group of Annexes A and B we have established today to report back to the conference on the progress made. And after that, we will continue the consideration on the agenda item 4C on artisanal and small-scale gold mining. And we will consider the agenda items as planned for tomorrow in the schedule for this meeting. We may also come back in the afternoon plenary to some agenda items that have been not closed today. And with this, the meeting is adjourned and we will resume tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. sharp. Thank you very much for today.